Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm not liking the lighting here on YouTube, but I guess it will have to do. Hi, everyone. Just making sure I'm live here on Facebook in the group and making sure we're good here on YouTube. And hi, it's good to see everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Deepa Patani, and I have a doctorate in pharmacy, and I run Allen Pharmacy and Wellness here in Allen, Texas. And I am also a certified functional medicine practitioner. And I love to help people find natural ways to take care of some of the problems before they turn into chronic problems. And my goal in life is to help everyone realize that just because we've been diagnosed with one particular condition or a chronic condition, that does not mean that we have to live with that label or with that chronic disease for the rest of our life. If there's one thing you get out of here, it should be that we didn't have high blood pressure, we didn't have diabetes, we didn't have cholesterol, we didn't have obesity, all these issues, or autoimmune, which is my specialty. We didn't have all these things when we were born, and that means that we don't have to live with those for the rest of our lives. There are things that are in our control that we can do to help alleviate some of our symptoms, to help um, kind of put that train back on its track, so to say. So there's definitely not something that we need to feel victimized over, and that there's always something that is in our hands that we can do to make our lives better. And so this is my small attempt to try to get that education out there so that people will um, learn to look at new things and, like, at least bring new things to your attention so that at least you're potentially aware of it, and then we can use that information when we actually need it. Or at least you'll know, like, okay, I had heard something about it here, or if you can come back and take a look at more videos and find what you were looking for. And if you can't, then you still know where to reach me. We're on our private Facebook group, which is called Healing Pre Autoimmune and Autoimmune Naturally. And so you feel free to reach out to us and join our group if you'd like to learn about that. It's a free group to join, and you have access to me, and you can ask me questions in there. All right, so today's topic is we're talking about an overlooked cardiovascular lab test, which can potentially save our lives. And maybe not all the doctors are actually checking for that in their blood work when they order it. So I thought maybe we can talk about it a little bit here, and then you can ask for that lab test when your next blood work may be due, and we can see what your levels may be. So this particular blood known there is a marker in the blood which is known as fibrinogen, and that is something that we can test for when we do our blood work. And so what is fibrinogen? So to kind of explain it simply, what fibrinogen is when we get a small cut or a bruise which starts to maybe bleed a little, and then you see that the blood starts to kind of accumulate in that area, and then it starts to get a little thick, and then it starts to scab over, and then that's how our body kind of heals itself, right? So that process is started by something called fibrinogen. And just to know that, like, right now, just we don't look for that particular blood marker in our blood. So the same thing can happen in our bodies, right? So we have this fibrinogen which is floating around, and if there's inflammation in our bodies, if the blood vessels are being affected somehow, we've talked about, like, leaky blood vessels, right? Leaky gut. And so that's like when all the tissues are kind of not as strong knit together like they're supposed to be. And so when there's like damage, and then there's things that are coming out which is causing inflammation, so that's when this fibrinogen goes and attacks that particular item. It covers it up with this little thing and creates a little clot type thing, and then it kind of stops that leak, right? So if there's like if it's in our gut, then it could be like, that nutrition and other things are leaking out of our gut lining, then leading to inflammation. So it'll go and put this little patch of clot on that particular blood vessel. So that's what fibrinogens actual part in the whole system is. But a lot of times, what can happen is when there's other things, like if there's any kind of blood vessel damage internally, if there's inflammation, which can happen a lot from chronic stress that we talk about. So when that happens, it causes like this reaction where fibrinogen is now going to keep making it and making the clots. And then sometimes those clots are really big, and then it can break off, and then it can get stuck in our hearts, which is when we get a heart attack, or it can travel up to the brain when that causes a stroke, and so on and so forth. So that's where all that clot and that fibrinogen activity is coming in. So the blood marker that we can test for is actually called fibrinogen activity test, right? So I think I want to make sure that I get you the right name. Yes. So when this level for the fibrinogen starts to become elevated, that is when we have to start worrying about what that can mean, right? Because we can have a lot of cholesterol, we can have sugar, we can have all those issues that could be leading up to a heart attack. But if this fibrinogen activity is increased, that means that this fibrinogen is very active, making clots all over the body and doing its thing. That's when the alarm bells should be ringing off that, hey, there's something else that's going on that's not related to the cholesterol, that's not related to anything else, and that we can be increasing our chances of having a heart attack by nearly twofold. So that, in fact, that's just something that can be figured out from just one simple blood test, which a lot of people may not be actually running, but would be a big helper if we knew those numbers and how active the fibrinogen is in your body. So make sure that you always ask for that test, or when you have the next blood work due, that you can actually request that, because if you don't request that, then it's not going to get tested, and it's not part of the standard labs. Even if your cardiologist is running a test to check on everything, that is not something that they routinely add to it. So it's something that you have to ask for specifically. So, all right, let me see. I don't want to miss something. So now when you have the fibrinogen activity, and when that is coupled with high cholesterol and high blood pressure, so that actually increases our chances of heart attack by 6 to 12 times. Okay, so that's something that, like, we're not saying that we're only looking at fibrinogen and that cholesterol and blood pressure are not important. Like, yes, those things are important, but now, there's not very many times that one of the things is happening alone in the body. There's always like a multiple amount and things that are going on all at the same time, and our body is a fluid thing. There's things that are constantly happening, things that are constantly changing. So it's very important to be aware that it's not going to be just one or two things that we have to look at. So we have to look at the entire picture. We look at the fibrinogen activity test result. We want to keep our cholesterol in check. We want to keep our blood pressure in check. And then we can figure out where our risk level is, and then what we can do to alleviate it. So when you're assessing your risk, right, like what are those numbers and what should they be when you get the results back? So ideally, I want patients' fibrinogen activity levels to be under 300 milligrams per deciliter. So if your levels are lower, it's good to keep getting them tested at least once a year or twice a year. Whenever you get your blood work, it doesn't hurt to throw that marker in, just to kind of keep an eye on the amount of inflammation that may be going on and the activity of the fibrinogen in the body. And but if your levels are higher, then we should be testing it every 3 months to kind of see if that trend is going in a downward pattern or not. So you want to make sure that you want to do something about it, right? Like, we're not going to just keep those levels up and then do nothing if they are high. So what are some of the things that we can do to bring our fibrinogen activity levels down? One is we can follow a strict Mediterranean diet, because it's very low on a lot of these inflammatory foods. And so it's a great way to bring your inflammation down. Mediterranean food is already kind of very not as dense as some of the other high density like caloric foods that we ingest here in the US. So it's not as, it doesn't leave you feeling nauseated and bloated when you eat it. So following a strict Mediterranean diet can really help to bring those levels down. Consuming omega-3 fatty acids, so your EPA, DHA, all of that, take 2 to 3 grams of omega-3s a day. That can help bring that down. Cooking with macadamia nut oil or olive oil, avocado oil, those are good ways to switch, instead of using any of those vegetable canola oils. You want to switch to some of the nut oils and avocado oils. And then also, if you didn't want to take omega-3s in a pill form, then, increasing salmon, mackerel, um, avocados, sardines, those kinds of foods in your diet really also helps to get those omega-3s in naturally. And then there are these two supplements that I recommend generally, but you have to be careful that you're not on any blood thinners before you take these supplements. So if you are on any kind of blood thinners, then always run those things by your doctor. And I think that you should be doing that anyways, even if you are not on blood thinners. Always run things by your physician before you do stuff. This video blog is for informational purposes only, and before you make any drastic changes, always discuss that with your physician. And there's nattokinase and serratiopeptidase. So don't try to figure out what the spelling is. I will put it in the comments what those two supplements are, and I will also include the link to the Fullscript account, which I absolutely love because now I don't have to carry 800 different supplements, and because I like one or two supplements from one brand and one or two supplements from the other brand, so I can actually take a look at the whole picture and really recommend like what I really feel like works for my patients and my clients. So I will definitely add those two supplements in the notes, and also a link for where you can find them. But that's pretty much it. And so I'm hoping that you will learn a lot about fibrinogen from this little video. And if there's any questions about it, then you know where to reach me. I'm also available for a free 15-minute consult on Calendly. My link, everything is available on our private Facebook group. So if you're not there, please join and encourage other people that you may know to join as well, so that we can help more people. That's pretty much it. And please leave your comments or questions in the comments, and I'll address them all as I go. Thank you.